I'm pretty easygoing on Royal Caribbean cruise ships, but there are a few things that some passengers do that totally aggravate me. And it's not all about what I want or what I like on a cruise ship, but ultimately, I think a lot of these behaviors that personally really irritate me are things that probably also really irritate other people as well. Ultimately, we're all on a cruise for one reason: to have a great vacation. And being on vacation is not carte blanche to do whatever you want, nor is it an excuse to be able to act in a way that certainly circumvents rules or is otherwise just disruptful to other guests. Some of the things on this list are things that are actually prohibited by Royal Caribbean, but people still do them anyway, and other things are quite frankly just bad etiquette and things people do that really just irritate others in their own special way. So today, I came up with a list of things people do on a cruise that I can't personally stand. Maybe you agree with me on these. Number one, bring fake service animals on board. So a couple of years ago, Royal Caribbean banned emotional support animals. If you look it up in their policy, they're not allowing emotional support animals on board their ships. They used to allow that, but the only animals that are allowed to be brought on a cruise are service animals, which makes total sense. The problem is there are people that absolutely abuse this rule and they're flagrant about it. What I'm talking about are people that bring clearly their own pet animal for whatever reason, whether they just feel they need it, they don't want to leave it at home, they're selfish, I don't know. But what they do is they buy the service animal harnesses on Amazon and they pass them off as service animals. Now that's like the better of the worst, because the worst ones are the people that do this but then like bring animal carriers, because service animals have to be on their feet at all times, but they bring like these carriages and basically pass off clearly what are pets and not service animals as service animals for whatever reason. Maybe they just don't want to be apart from the animal. Maybe they're feeling entitled. I'm not sure, but it's clearly against the rules, and I am certain they know what they're doing is wrong because they're trying to circumvent the rules by buying a service animal leash on Amazon and calling it that. So that's like the first thing, and every time I see it, I just roll my eyes at because it's just ridiculous. Number two is being rude to crew members. We've talked about this on this channel before. There is never an excuse to be rude to crew members. I get it. Sometimes you have a bad day and maybe there's a rule or a policy you don't agree with. Those are all things that I've been there, done that, got the card to remember it by. The thing is, it's not an excuse to be rude to crew members about it. Certainly you can voice your displeasure, but really if there's a problem, rather than going and being rude to the crew member, what you really need to do is escalate. If you believe you're in the right and they're in the wrong, cool. What you need to do is, first of all, disengage from that situation, ask to speak to their manager, or better yet, just go to guest services and explain what's happening there. There's never anything to be gained by blowing up and or just simply being rude to crew members. Oftentimes, being rude can also come in other ways where people are simply ignoring crew member directions, as in the rules don't apply to them. Or also putting crew members in a really bad spot, like asking them to break the rules for you. This is something we've covered as well previously here on this channel, where people, ask the crew members to, break the rules for them. They're not going to do that. And then maybe that person doesn't take it very well. Either way, there's just never an excuse to be rude to crew members. And anytime I've seen it, it's pretty rare, but when I have seen it, it's unfortunate and it really irks me because these are really hardworking people on board a ship who are trying to make your vacation as amazing as possible. And for whatever reason, whether it's a policy you don't agree with or something they can't do, it's not an excuse to ignore them or be rude to them. Next on my list of things that really bother me personally are people that wear political shirts on board a cruise ship. I think one of the best things about going on a cruise vacation is kind of that escape from reality. Certainly you can watch the news and keep up with it on your phone and whatnot, but when you're on a cruise ship, there's a different mantra, and wearing political shirts simply is just going to annoy a lot of people on board the ship. Now you say, okay, well, I wear my shirt and, I get high fives people who agree with me. Okay, but it just fosters the wrong sentiment, and there's just not a place for it. I think in general, and this is true of most civil conversation, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion in general things with people that you don't know very, very well. And when it comes to a cruise ship, I just don't think there's a place for it. I mean, if it were up to me, I'd probably ban political shirts and also Philadelphia Eagles t-shirts, but I digress. Here's what it boils down to me. You're on vacation, you're here for a good time. There's really nothing to be gained by wearing a shirt for whatever political affiliation you happen to have. Some people might agree with you, others are going to be annoyed by it, and maybe it creates a problem, maybe it doesn't, but it's just unnecessary. Bring your fun t-shirts, your tropical t-shirts, your I'm on a cruise t-shirts with the really bad puns and cliches that are on there. Like, that's what cruising is all about, not fostering the sort of sentiment that we kind of find online and in our daily lives that we truly want to get away from in most cases. Next on my list are, of course, blatant share hogs. This is not breaking news by any means, But there's chair hogs and there's blatant chair hogs. So like regular chair hogs are like, hey, you go up to the pool deck, you get a chair, and then maybe you go get something to eat and the windjammer come back in 40 minutes. I'm talking about people that wake up at 6 a.m., reserve a bunch of seats with towels, and then don't show up again until like 10 o'clock. Or the one person who reserves all those seats for all their family, and their family doesn't roll in until like closer to lunchtime. These sorts of chair hogs really do irritate me the most because they're the most blatant about it. It's most like open, like, hey, we're clearly hogging up these chairs, as opposed to somebody who might, be holding a chair longer than maybe they should have. Now, I get the whole idea, like, listen, it'd be great if we could all, not be chair hogs, and the second that you don't need the chair for a minute, you get up and let someone else use it, and then they get up. And a lot of people often tell me, well, Matt, I would love to not be a chair hog, but the reality is if I'm not one, other people will be, and then I won't have a chair. But just as they say, two wrongs don't make a right, certainly being an over-the-top, blatant chair hog, to me, is something that really bugs me. Next, I have, while we're talking about chair hogs, how about casino hogs? This is something I've only noticed more recently when I've started gambling more in Royal Caribbean's casinos. But essentially, this is where somebody has like a chair pitched forward to reserve the machine. Sometimes it's somebody who has like a foot up on the chair. Basically, they're holding the machine for somebody else. And I mean, I guess if you're going to the bathroom and like you're going to be back in 2 minutes, okay. In most cases, this is not the case. This is somebody who goes to like back to, I don't know where on the ship to do something, but you can't really hold a machine in that regard. If the person hasn't been gone for more than about a minute, again, the bathroom I get, but I've seen plenty of situations where people are really reserving machines and like holding it and putting the chair up because, their family's coming down, they got to bring the kids to Adventure Ocean or whatever. You're like, I would just point out there is no formal policy for reserving slot machines. They're not for you. You don't get to hold it indefinitely until you're done with it. I mean, if you're playing, that's totally fine. I don't have an issue with that. But it's people that like tilt the chairs forward or, have like their foot up on the chair or somehow are blocking use of the machine. There's also the people who are doing this inadvertently, where the usual example is like their spouse or partner or friend is playing. And this person is sitting in front of the machine because they want to watch. Well, the problem is they're taking up a seat right in front of the machine and probably blocking access to the machine. This is usually not a problem. Usually it's like, hey, do you mind if I get in here? But in a lot of cases, it's a little awkward because, you don't want to kick them out. And sometimes they make a little face about it. But anyway, that's next on my list. Also, I have people who smoke where they're not supposed to. This is something I've seen far more recently than in past years. As you all know, you are only supposed to smoke in certain venues, near the pool deck, in the casino, places like that. But there are people that still think, for whatever reason, they can or are entitled to smoke in other places. The balcony is a big one, especially people that are smoking marijuana because they need to be somewhere a little more inconspicuous, and so they think they can smoke there. The problem with it is not so much that they're breaking the rules, so they are breaking the rules. But in a lot of cases, the smoke wafts back into cabins downwind, and this happens more than you think. I've definitely been downwind for people who are smoking, whether it's cigarettes or marijuana. It comes in that way. And this is really frustrating because, again, it's against the rules. But the one that truly irritates me the most are the people that vape and vape in public places. Usually they try to vape into their shirt, or they do the quick, like, I don't know what the description is audially, but they kind of like breathe over to the side and try to blow it out very quickly. Not only is it against the rules, not only is it annoying, but it's disrespectful to other passengers. I don't want to smell it. I don't want to inhale it. I don't want to deal anything with it because it's not in a smoking area. If I'm in a smoking area like the casino, well, I understand what comes with that territory and I'll live with that. But in other places like bars, absolutely not. And the last thing that people do on a cruise that I just can't stand are people that are really late back to shore excursions. Oftentimes I've done shore excursions where you have to meet back at a certain time at a certain place. Cool. And you're a minute or two late, or you're taking a photo like up the street. That's fine. Like that's pretty normal, right? But I'm talking about people that are blatantly late. People that, for whatever reason can't manage time very well and come back 20, 30 minutes late. This actually happened to me most recently when I was in Bordeaux, France, over in Europe, and I was at Anthem of the Seas. And we had a on your own tour where they bussed us over. It took like 2 hours to get there. But we had all day in Bordeaux, and we'd be back out the bus at a certain time. Okay. Well, there was one family that was blatantly late. I think they ended up being about half an hour late or so. And the issue was they asked the driver and not the tour guide what time they should be back. And because of a language barrier issue, they got the wrong time. Listen, I'm willing to believe them on this one, but nonetheless, it's up to you to talk to the tour operator and be responsible and triple and quadruple check. When I'm doing any tour, especially in a foreign country, my goodness, I am going to verify like 17 times what time I need to be back and where I need to be back. And also verify that my watch is on time. Now, in other shore excursions, it's just simply been a case of probably losing track of time. I remember when I was on a shore excursion in Cuba, I remember waiting about 10, 15 minutes for somebody to get back because they had gone off on whatever they were doing and lost track of time there. Ultimately, this goes back to, I think, what's at the core of a lot of these things, which is it's disrespectful to your fellow guests. When you're there on a group tour, it is your obligation to be back on time, not just because the tour guide tells you to do that, but because everyone else is sitting there on the bus waiting to go. And in the case of Bordeaux, we're sitting there on the bus. It's a 2-hour ride, and now I'm sitting on the bus for an extra half an hour because we're waiting for this family to get going. And unfortunately, when you say, well, why didn't the bus driver just leave? Really, you've got to be super duper incredibly late to be left behind because it's just like a no-win situation for the cruise line and leave somebody behind in that manner. Nonetheless, it's something that you really got to make sure you're on top of when you're on any shore excursion. So there you have a list of the, 7 or so things that really bug me personally that I just can't stand that happen on a cruise. The good news is, of the items on this list, most of them happen very infrequently. I mean, the chair hogs is definitely a thing that happens a lot, but it is what it is. But a lot of the other ones are really kind of more rare. But ultimately, when you're on a cruise, the takeaway, I think, is less that what Matt likes or doesn't like, but try to be your best person. Be a good person to other people out there and help foster that sense of, hey, we're on vacation, we're going to have a great time. And, maybe you make a great friend out of it. That's even the best part about doing the right thing. Let me know in the comments below, which of these do you agree with? Do you disagree with any of these? And what are your pet peeves when it relates to things that you just can't stand on a cruise? Let me know in the comments below. While you're down below our video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That way, YouTube lets you know we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. We'll talk again real soon.